I'm iCaveDave, a new haircut, who dis? On today's Apple Daily. Apple grows Mac shipments by a huge 31% in the last quarter. M1 Bluetooth issues to be fixed in the next macOS update. And Intel tries making their own M1 style chips.
For the latest Apple news, rumors, and leaks, every weekday at 12 UTC, join us in the iCave.
CES 2021 has now kicked off, but there's a whole bunch of tech news coming out, and almost none of it is about Apple. But don't worry, we'll be scouring the news feeds to find you the most interesting bits through an Apple lens. If that sounds good for you, there's a like button and a subscribe button just below this video, and that mystical bell will make sure that you don't miss any of it. And if you do ring my bell, let me know by posting #notificationsquad in the comments, and I'll shout you out in the next video. Apple grows Mac shipments by a huge 31% in the last quarter. Given the situation in the world last year, it's probably not surprising that there were a lot of companies shipping a lot of new computers last year, and of course Apple was no exception. But it was the last quarter of the year that things got really interesting and took off, with Mac sales leaping nearly a third over the previous year. Of course there was Christmas, but without checking my calendar I'm fairly confident that there was a Christmas the year before as well. The big difference, of course, was Apple Silicon and the M1 based Macs that it brought with it. After one of the most divisive events in a while, where half the people, including me, were blown away by the range and the performance in these chips, there were also those complaining legitimately about the poorly labelled graphs and 3.5 times faster type claims, without really telling us what it was 3.5 times faster than. The rest of the market averaged 10.7% growth, so Apple was really outperforming the market here. And once the M1 units were in the hands of mere mortals and the tests started coming through, the buzz grew even more. Happily, I now have my Mac Mini M1, which has only been here a couple of days, but I have to say I'm very impressed so far, though there has been one frustration. M1 Bluetooth issues to be fixed in the next macOS update. Yes, unfortunately that Bluetooth issue really is a thing, and over the past couple of days it has happened to me a few times. Once actually requiring a restart. Of course, there is a very simple workaround for this, which is using a wired keyboard and trackpad. So right now I am keeping a wired mouse plugged into my USB hub just in case things happen, but I can't say it's not annoying, and I have had to use it to restart the system once. That being said, assuming it can be fixed with a simple software update, it's not exactly the end of the world and will presumably work perfectly after that. I'd also say that it's going to affect Mac Mini users disproportionately more than MacBook Pro or MacBook Air users, because they're less likely to be using external peripherals for very much of the time, of course, although I'm pretty sure it is just as frustrating if they're using them on a desk setup, for example. When it happens, it's just like when the batteries are low and the connection is lost, but of course your battery level is irrelevant to this happening, it just happens completely at random. As I said, annoying, but hopefully a short-term irritation. If it turns out to be unfixable with software, I would expect that Apple will probably offer a repair or replacement program, which would be, again, very annoying, but not, again, the end of the world. Apple tends to be really good at supporting hardware in that kind of way, although they do tend to drag their feet a little bit, but I'd just prefer it to work. Intel decides to try making their own M1 style chips. Intel's revealed their Alder Lake family of chips at CES 2021, which has a combination of high performance and high efficiency cores in a single package. There's some innovation. The chip maker has been facing increasing pressure from investors since Apple moved away to building their own SoCs, as well as AMD pulling ahead in performance, with Intel losing both market share and market value in recent times. Helpfully, these investors have suggested some ways to fix this, like using less of those pesky nanometers in their chips, as the people with not as many nanometers in their processors seem to be doing better. I love investors, me. There have also been some suggestions that Intel should move to a fabless model, simply designing the chips and contracting others like TSMC or Samsung to produce them on their behalf. It will be interesting to see what they decide to do. So back to their little big chips. Intel plans for the first systems to arrive in the second half of 2021, and they are designed not only for mobile but also scalable to desktop chips. So certainly interesting that Intel is going in this direction like Apple, though being based primarily on x86, it's probably going to still have Intel's famous high temperatures, and will of course lack the integration that Apple has with the non-CPU parts of the M1 SoC, things like the neural engine, unified memory, image signal processors and more. And even if it does have those, it won't be tuned to the hardware that it's attached to. We'll bring you more on this when there are more details on performance, but just as an aside, there still seem to be a lot of the Apple rumour sites talking about more Intel Macs coming and whether they'll use these processors, though I'm pretty confident that Apple is all done with releasing those, and if they did, who would pick them? It'll definitely be interesting to see if there are any more in the works, but I'm pretty sure that when they released the iMacs in August, that was their swan song. I don't think any more is coming. But if Apple was to release new Intel Macs after they've released something like the M1X, which is hopefully going to fix all of the issues that we have with M1, or that people perceive with the M1, like the reduced number of monitors that it supports, the reduced number of ports in general, would you choose an Intel Mac still? I don't know why anyone would, but if you would, let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.